Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, who is visiting all the way from India, Mumbai. I think people who are connected with ISKCON around the world, they know that Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is a stalwart figure. He's a well-known speaker, motivational life coach. He's somebody who we have all seen seamlessly connect the gap between science and spirituality. He's published, authored more than 25 books, and he's been an invited speaker at August forums of TEDx, World Peace Conference, you name it and you have it. He's spoken at Stanford and things. The one thing which I like the most about him is he's somebody who has really, like every little part of Gita, he's broken it down into pieces so somebody like us can understand and kind of imbibe it in our lives. And again, it's the auspicious occasion of Pandav Ekadashi today, Nirjala Ekadashi. So it's really an honor for us to kind of welcome him. So let's say Hari Bol so that he welcome. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! He has, every time he comes, he brings multiple new books. So this time he has 2 new books and he's going to talk about them. We've displayed it here as well as in the front of the table. Please, have a look at them. I think Prabhuji will ask us to read some prayers from.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please guide us all so that we can understand your words and see the truth in your words and accept the glorious destiny that you want for all of us. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming today. So you have a copy of a book. If you can just go to page number here, 130 over here. You can see it over here also. Some of you would like to, I'll be writing and drawing things over here. So if you would like to come closer, if it's not visible, you're most welcome. If you can see from there, that's fine. So in this book, I have taken the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita and tried to approach it through the medium of prayers. So basically, the Gita is not just a book of philosophy. It is also Krishna speaking those words. So the same lips which play the flute to call the gopis to him, which to call all souls to him, that same soul lips have spoken the words of the Bhagavad Gita. And just as we approach Krishna as the deity and pray to him, similarly Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gita can also be prayed to. So here I have taken in this book I have taken some 122 verses from the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So let's look at this particular prayer. You can repeat after me. My dear Lord, let awareness of inner danger drive me toward your shelter. So in each prayer, in this book, I have taken a verse of the Gita. I have a spiritual affirmation, which is like a one-line prayer. And then there's a picture of a deity of Krishna. And we have the verse, and it's translated into poetic English. So let's look at the verse. You can repeat after me. Arjuna vacha athakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varishneya baladiva niyojitaha. Arjuna said, what is this force that drives us so, compelling us towards sin and woe? Even unwilling, we are drawn astray. as if seized by power beyond our sway. So, I'd request all of you to read one paragraph. One paragraph, Prabhus, ladies can read. Anyone would like to read the first paragraph?
My merciful Lord, many are the moments in my life when I am forced to acknowledge that there is some force beyond me, mighty and malevolent, that takes control of my life. It impels me to act in ways that are not just different from, but also often utterly contradictory to the values that I hold sacred.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll read. Wait a minute. I'll explain something and then we'll discuss. Thank you. So, I have been traveling across the world for the last 10 years, and I've spoken to people from different traditions, different cultural backgrounds, different even religious backgrounds. Now there can be many differences of opinion over many different issues. There is one truth that everyone can agree on. And that truth can be summarized in 3 words. That truth is this visible? Life is tough. Isn't it? So, we may be wealthy, we may be poor, we may be popular, we may be unknown, we may be tall, short, fat, thin, educated, not so educated. Life is not easy for anyone. And most often, when we think about the toughness of life, that generally we think of that from outside, trouble comes upon us. So the economy may go bad, the weather may become poor, some people may trouble us. So while there are all these troubles are there undoubtedly, now one factor that we often overlook is that there is much trouble that we bring upon ourselves. That there is something inside us that seems to work against us. I learned this lesson when I was just growing up. Since my childhood, I had a lot of interest in language. So one of my hobbies was to pick up a dictionary and memorize words. And I developed a fairly good vocabulary by that. But as I was growing up, I also had a bit of a temper. Now, having a bad temper is a problem. But I found that having a bad temper and a good vocabulary is a deadly problem. See, most people when they get angry, they just become incoherent. They may scream, they may rant, they may shriek. And we can see that they're angry, but this person has lost control. So often we don't take very seriously what a person speaks when they're angry also, because they become incoherent. But if somebody is articulate, somebody is well-spoken, not in the sense that they speak sweetly, but they use words properly, and those words can become like viciously cutting swords. And I noticed that I was hurting a lot of people, although I didn't want to hurt them at all. So it's almost as if my own strength was being used against me. Having a good vocabulary is a strength, but I realized that instead of this strength being used to connect me with others, see, our words can either form bridges with others that become closer, or those same words, they can become barriers which come in between us and others. So they can form windows that link us, or they can become walls. So I realized that alienating people, and I started recognizing that I had to do something to get a handle on this anger. And when I started reading the Bhagavad Gita, I was reintroduced to it in my college days. So when I read this verse just spoke to me directly. This is something which I really can relate with at a personal level. Because I felt this was something, this anger was something which was really hurting me and causing me to hurt others. And so this thing that there is something inside us that seems to work against us. That is a realization that everyone comes to sooner or later. And yes, life has many problems. And we could say there are problems that come from outside. Quite often, it is the way we react that worsens those problems. Somebody, we need something important, that person forgets to get it. And that person forgetting to get it is annoying, is disturbing. But if we fly into a rage and speak something very harsh and hurtful, then that thing being forgotten would have been just an inconvenience for a few hours. But those words may scar the person for weeks and years at times. So in that sense, the trouble is external as well as internal. And when Arjuna is asking this question over here, that atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha. There is some force inside me which is making me act against my best interests. And it seems to be an extremely strong force. Now, across history and geography, and not just in like historical culture, but also in what you can call a popular culture, in fiction, the idea that there is something against us that is inside us, that is there. We all, in modern society, people use the word, I have my inner demons. Now today people may not believe in demons, but they do believe in the idea of inner demons. That, so in one sense you could say that people may not believe in Krishna, but they have to believe in Maya. What do I mean? Maya, not necessarily a force that creates illusion, but something that makes us act against our own interests. So these inner demons, the idea, if we consider even fictional things like say Star Wars, there is the idea of something called the dark side. If we look at Indian movies, there is, or Native American tradition, there is the good dog and the bad dog. This idea is everywhere. So there is some force that seems to work against us. So now Krishna is going to equip Arjuna to deal with this inner force. But before we can deal with this inner force, we need to recognize its presence. And in one sense, what I talk about will be summarized in this one 4-quadrant diagram. But before I go to that diagram, let's read the next paragraph. Would you like to read, please? Yes. So, as I said, we may deny the existence of God. So we could say that there is the power of Maya, of the force of illusion. So we may accept that there is Maya and there is the power of Maya. Or we may reject the idea. There is no such thing as Maya. There is no such force of illusion which makes me act as. And similarly, there is the power of Krishna. Now, we may accept it. That means we may take the power of Krishna. By accept means take seriously. And reject means don't take it seriously. No, it doesn't matter. So broadly, we can have these 4 quadrants. That if we consider, we accept the power of Maya. Our entire life story basically falls in one of these 4 quadrants. In many ways, our life story is the story of our encounters with temptation. Now, in the West, the word encounter is quite common. In India, the word encounter has a different meaning. So in India, encounter means to counter. To counter and to destroy. But encounter, in the normal sense of the word, it means that we face it. So when we deal with temptation, how do we deal with temptation? Our whole life is shaped by that. For example, as children, nowadays there is so much technology available, so many gadgets available. And those gadgets can cause so much distraction, can cause so much wastage of time. So this is something which is coming ultimately from the force of illusion. One of the things that has happened because of social media is that second-hand experience has become more important than first-hand experience. What do I mean by second-hand experience and first-hand experience? That this is especially true among teenagers. What happens is that suppose somebody goes for some party, some festival, some outing, some hiking, some trekking, some event they go to, and they actually have a good time in the event. But then they take photos of that event and they post the photos on social media, maybe Instagram, TikTok, whatever, Facebook. And they might have had a wonderful time over there, but if nobody likes their photos, or if somebody likes their photos less than their friends' photos, then that whole experience becomes worthless. That same thing, the lived experience might have been wonderful, but that I had a wonderful experience, if you do not acknowledge that my experience was wonderful, then the experience becomes no longer wonderful. That's why the second-hand experience, that others acknowledging our experience has become more important. So this is the idea of illusion. So illusion could be how much are we affected by social media. People get caught in it, and there's constant comparison that happens, and a lot of young people are subjected to depression because of that, because just incessant comparison goes on and on and on. So while young men, they get caught in video gaming, boys, and just completely hooked on that. I saw one cartoon of one man. He's telling his friend, yesterday my broadband Wi-Fi went down. So I spent some time with my family. They seem like nice people. It's like as if you don't even know who they are. So our whole life, it could be, as students we may have to study, as professionals we may have to work for jobs. We can spend time on social media and looking at this ad and looking at that thing. There's alcoholism and there is shopaholism. Shopaholism is shop till you drop. Now that shop till you drop was when people go out into shopping malls and they have to buy so many things, and so many things they drop down. Now we don't even have to go out. We can just click on our phones and we can just buy as much thing as we want. So the thing is, temptation is always present. And broadly speaking, our life story is basically proportional to, or is shaped on, our facing of temptation. Now this is not just for somebody who wants to live a life of devotion, and we understand there's Maya, and Maya will take us away from Krishna. But Maya will not only just take us away from Krishna, Maya will not even let us live happily at a material level. To whatever degree happiness is possible at a material level, even that will be taken away. So if we consider Krishna is here on the top, then below that there is Sattva, below that there is Rajas, and below that there is Tamas. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, these are like gears of a car. It's like a car in a particular gear will function a particular way. So a mind that is infected by a particular mode functions in a particular way. So Maya will, if we are here, we would like to go here, Maya will pull us downwards. But Maya will not let us stay there. If we are here, Maya will pull us here. So from Krishna it will pull us to Sattva, from Sattva it will pull us to Rajas, and from Rajas it will pull us to Tamas. So it will, and even for people who have no spiritual interests, the force of temptation is there. Somebody might be living a material responsible life, and maybe they get fired, and they get fired. They are not able to find another job. They get depressed, and to get out of depression, they start drinking. And then, okay, losing a job was a problem. Getting addicted to alcohol is a far bigger problem, isn't it? So the force of temptation, the force of illusion, this Maya is there for everyone. And it is constantly dragging us down. So I said that if this particular diagram we take, that if we are to overcome the force of illusion, we need to take Maya seriously and we need to take Krishna seriously. Now, when we take Maya seriously means what? This whole thing, each of these, there is the need to fight against temptation. First, we need to recognize that there is a need to fight. And the other is, if we understand the power of Krishna and we accept it, there is hope to fight. So, if whatever is the temptation, for somebody it may be short tempers, or for somebody it might be just buying too many things, for somebody it might be gossiping, we all can have different kinds of temptations that catch us. Gossiping is where what happens? We just keep talking. Generally, and talking is not a bad thing, but it's not that good things we talk about. So, gossip, when does it happen? The word gossip. Often gossip happens when we go for a sip. So we are in office and we go by the water cooler and we are drinking some water. And this happened to this person did like this person did like that. Or we may sit at our homes with our friends, our neighbors, or relatives, and we are all maybe in India, people sip chai. Now, Indian cuisine has not caught up so much in the West, like Chinese cuisine has caught up. But chai is like very well known. When I do Western outreach, I go to Westerners and speak to them. So we had taken a group of about 25-30 Westerners, Western yoga students to India for a tour. And say, my name is Chaitanya Charan. It's a very difficult name for most people to get. So finally, in the first time we were taking for a tour for 10-15 days there, so most of these yoga students were women, young women. So finally one of those women, she said, Chaitanya. So I said, okay, wonderful. I said, you got your name. How did you get the name? She said, I thought of Tanya taking chai. So in Sanskrit there is the idea of Sandhi Vigraha. You separate a word into its constituents. So I thought, no Acharya would have thought of this Sandhi Vigraha. So now I introduce myself to Western audience as Charan. It's a straightforward name for people today. So anyway, I was making this point that often when there is, so I was talking about chai, we might just sit down to take chai, we might take herbal tea, whatever, and that time we may start gossiping. And sometimes when we gossip, so generally when do we gossip? That is, two things have to happen together for gossiping. One is, we hear something we like. Generally, if the information is not very likable or interesting, we don't want to gossip about it. But we hear something we like about someone we don't like. We hear something we like about someone we don't like. Oh wow, now in public interest, I'm going to tell this to everyone now. So now sometimes we may gossip about someone and then that person comes to know somehow that, oh, this person spoke like this about me. And then whatever, a nice relationship becomes cold. Or even when we are gossiping about someone, the other person might seem to hear enjoy the gossip. But that person may be thinking that, oh, today you are speaking like that about this person, tomorrow you may speak like that about me. So what happens because of this is that there can be many different kinds of temptations, but the idea is there is a part of us which knows this is going to cause some harm. But we overlook it. So first is that if our life story is a story of dealing with temptation. So I'll talk about these 4 quadrants. We need to recognize the need that there is a force of illusion and the force of illusion works against me. So there is a need to fight against it. So generally speaking, if we consider these 4 quadrants, let's start with quadrant 2. If we don't believe that there is a need to fight, nor do we have any hope in fighting. We don't believe in Maya, we don't believe in Krishna. So basically what happens is, we are going to be dragged down. We are going to be dragged down. It is like Srila Prabhupada says that some people go to hell, others happily go to hell. And that means they are doing things which they don't even recognize or realize the consequences of. So it's like we are dragged down, but we are effortlessly dragged down. Effortlessly means we are not even fighting against it. So we end up becoming degraded over here. Now, if we recognize the power of Maya, but don't recognize the power of Krishna, then this is where quite often we become hopeless. Why hopeless? Say like some people get addicted to something and they try to give up something and they can't give up. They try again, they can't give up. They try to give up, they can't give up. And then they decide, I give up the attempt to give up. It's like that. There was a British playwright, Oscar Wilde, he said, giving up smoking is the easiest thing in the world. I have done it over 100 times. And I can do it today, tomorrow, every day I can do it. But I give it up, but it does not give me it comes back again. So sometimes people just become hopeless. This conditioning is so strong, this attachment is so strong, I will never be able to give it up. So if we acknowledge that something is strong, that means we may not use the term Maya, but we are acknowledging the power of Maya. So acknowledging the power of Maya, but not acknowledging the power of Krishna, that can make us hopeless. Now, if we acknowledge the power of Krishna, Krishna is all powerful. Krishna can elevate me, purify me, liberate me, there's no problem. But we don't acknowledge the power of Maya. Then in this case what happens is we become careless. Careless means that this is no problem. Like in much of the Western world, the idea is that drink but don't get drunk. Now is that possible? Yeah, it's a part of the culture. People do that. But what happens is they may not become drunk for majority of their life. But when something bad happens, and if drinking is their coping mechanism, then at that time, something might just push them over the tip. It's like somebody regularly goes to the edge of a cliff where there is a slippery ground and it's a huge fall. And they regularly go over there, peer over and look down, and sometimes people like to take dangerous selfies also. So they go over there and they say, I've done it many times, nothing has happened. But what happens is sometimes they might be there and they don't notice that the ground is slippery. And that time suddenly a sharp gust of wind comes. And then they just get slipped over. So, yes, we may think, okay, I'm pure enough, I'm strong enough, Krishna is strong enough. we think that the temptation is not a big problem. Then what may happen is that we will get overcome. There is this concept called Swiss cheese, that all the bad things that can happen, they happen at the same time. And then the worst case is not just one worst case scenario, but 3-4 worst case scenarios happen simultaneously. And even the whole well-laid situation can get devastated. So I have a friend in the Indian army, and in the India is still doing some investigation about that Pahalgam, what happened. So he was telling me that at least right now what the understanding is that it was like a Swiss cheese, everything that could go wrong went wrong at that time. So sometimes it just happens like that. So we can become careless to some extent. So we may think, it's not going to affect me, but it can affect us. Now, if we acknowledge the power of Maya and the power of Krishna, so then what happens is, that is where we are careful, but we are also hopeful. There is care and there is hope. And when these two together come up, this is where we truly become empowered. Empowered to change for the better. So from whichever quadrant we may be in, today our session, what we'll be discussing is, from whichever quadrant we are in, how can we get to this quadrant 4? So let's move on to the next paragraph. Who would like to read? Third paragraph. Yes, please.
Indeed, almost every day, and sometimes, many times within a single day, my own actions serve as evidence of the presence and power of this mighty enemy.
Yes. Now, see, if we are not careful, if we are not alert, then we may not realize the problem. We may not realize that, say if somebody has a tendency to get angry. Now, we may get angry several times in a day, but it might just be one harsh word, a little change of tone in our voice, and it might just be one aggressive gesture. Now, when this happens, we may not even remember it at the end of the day, but whoever is affected by it will remember it. But however, if we start recognizing that there is this enemy inside me and it works against me, then we'll become more alert. Okay, what is happening over here? How is it happening? Now, if we consider there are bad people who do bad things and there are good people who do good things. But here what we are talking about is there are good people who end up doing bad things. So if we consider Yudhishthir, what happened to him was that many times this question comes up, why did he gamble at all? So was he so uncontrolled in his senses that he went about and gambled? No, he's considered Dharmaraj. So what happened for him? So if we consider, let's go back to these 4 quadrants once again. Somebody who is neither and acknowledge the power of Maya nor the power of Krishna. That means that person is happily, proudly under the clutches of illusion. The example of this would be somebody like Ravan. Ravan was proud of his power. He was not fighting against his lust. He was fighting for his lust. He was traveling across world conquest to not just gain power, but to gain pleasure by dominating and exploiting others. And he was using all his power. He uses his cunning, his cleverness, his deceptiveness, all of it to try to abduct Sita. Even when people gave him warnings that don't go against Ram, he'll be destroyed, he did not acknowledge that. So now, if we don't acknowledge the power of Maya nor the power of Krishna, we are proudly in illusion and we just keep going downwards. Now we acknowledge the power of Maya, but we don't acknowledge the power of Krishna. Then that times we are so caught in conditioning that we just keep getting dragged lower and lower and lower. So when this happens, a person just thinks that, okay, this is just the way I am, this is just the way I'm going to be. They may acknowledge at times that the way I am in a bad situation. And the situation is something I want to get out of. But the thing that I just can't change. So they just accept that, or they just passively resign themselves to a life where they're again and again just succumbing to illusion. They think that, okay, this is what life is. This is how, whatever it is, whether it is lust or anger or greed or whatever, that is controlling me, that is dominating me, that is overpowering me. Now the example for this is Ajamil. If we consider Ajamil, when he went out, he did not go out deliberately to look for some temptation. He'd just gone out on a routine chore. And there he saw something which just completely agitated his mind. And then at that time, he tried to remember scriptural wisdom. He tried to remember some wisdom, he tried to recall it, but the attack of temptation was so strong, it just stayed in his mind. And that's how he got dragged down. And he went dragged down to a very, very serious degree. We'll talk about Ajamil, how the power of Maya it works, but let's look at these examples to understand this point. Now, if we consider, I was talking about the example of Yudhishthir. So Yudhishthir had great faith in Krishna. If we look at the Mahabharata, especially the commentaries of the Mahabharata, I'll come back to Ajamil a little later, but let's look at Yudhishthir right now first. So what exactly happened? Why would a virtuous person gamble like this? So there's a bit of a background to it, that after the war ended, after the Rajasuya Yajna was performed, Yudhishthir Maharaj came to Vyasadeva, who had presided over the whole ceremony, and says, I seek your blessing so that I can rule with peace and prosperity and lead all the citizens to their ultimate well-being. And naturally, if any ceremony happens and it's gone off well, we are happy. But Vyasadeva was very grave. He said, "O king, I see dark clouds in the future. I see that there will be a terrible war. And after that terrible war, then you will have a reign of prosperity." Yudhishthir became very grave. And Yudhishthir thought that, okay, I don't want for there to be a war. So he thought that why was this wars occur? Generally wars occur when there are not just conflicts but unresolved conflicts. And why are conflicts unresolved? Because whoever is an authority who might resolve the conflict, that authority is not accepted. Like two people have a property dispute. They go to court. The court gives a particular verdict. If either or both sides don't accept the verdict, then what happens is, then they'll start fighting. It's like when there is a conflict and when the talking stops. When the talking stops, the conflict doesn't go away. When the talking stops, the fighting begins. Isn't it? Talks may not be pleasant, but fighting is even more unpleasant. So he thought that wars, why do they occur? They occur because of unresolved conflicts. And unresolved conflicts, why do they happen? Because of rejected authorities. Reject authority figures, those who might resolve the conflict, if they are not accepted, then it leads to conflict. So he thought that in order to avoid wars, I will always accept whatever my authority figures tell me. And in his case, authority figures were Dhritarashtra. So when Dhritarashtra called him for a gambling match. And Dhritarashtra called him through Vidura. So it's like two elders, two father figures were involved in that. Yudhishthira thought, I can't say no. Now, the first thing we said when they came to the gambling arena, he said to Duryodhana, why do you want to steal from me through gambling the wealth with which I want to serve society, I want to serve the Brahmanas, I want to do good for everyone? So Duryodhana said, who talked about stealing anything? He said, we just want to have a friendly match. Now, at that time, he said, Shakuni will play on my behalf. He said, that's against the rules of gambling. Whoever is taking the money, that is the person who should be playing. If you are afraid, you did not play. Now, Yudhishthira looked at Dhritarashtra. This was clearly unfair. Yudhishthira must have tried to play by the rules. Normally what happens is, if a game is going on, football or cricket, if one player is doing something unfair, you expect the umpire to intervene and point out it's unfair. Like that Yudhishthira was expecting Dhritarashtra to intervene, but Dhritarashtra did not intervene. And he started gambling. And he lost one thing, and he lost second thing, and he lost third thing. And now what happened was, as he was losing things, he was realizing, this is terrible. At one particular point, Arjuna touched Yudhishthira's shoulder. Now Yudhishthira, although they were brothers, Yudhishthira was still the eldest brother. And there is a certain hierarchy in traditional cultures where eldest brother is like a father figure. So Arjuna just gently shook his head, indicating, it's enough now, stop gambling. And Yudhishthira thought, yes, but he said that, I have lost so much. With all the wealth that I have lost, I can do so much service to the sages, to society, to people. So he said, just if I can get some of it back, then I can do so much service. And then he kept gambling, and he started thinking that as he was taking more and more valuable things, he was thinking that surely Krishna will not let me lose this. When he started taking his brothers, he says, Arjuna is so dear to Krishna, surely Krishna will not let Arjuna be lost. Then he said, thinking, Draupadi is so dear to Krishna, surely whatever happens, Krishna will not let Draupadi be lost. And it was not exactly that he had forgotten Krishna over there. You could say that he was in Maya, but his Maya is not like our Maya, or like a mundane Maya where we just get caught in. It was not because of any greed over there. It was not because he thought I'll make some quick money, that's why he started gambling. But it was even with a desire to serve. But what happens is, when we say life is tough, the Mahabharata depicts reality in its brutality. And one brutal truth of life, its brutal truth is that good intentions are not a substitute for good intelligence. Good intentions are not a substitute for good intelligence. So good intentions mean that he wanted to do dharma, he wanted to do bhakti, he wanted to do seva. That's a good intention. But it was a bad judgment call. So he had faith in the power of Krishna, but what happened is he underestimated the pull of gambling. He underestimated how much it can drag someone down. So just because we are trying to serve Krishna does not mean that the forces of illusion will no longer work on us. Just because we have some service in the temple, we have to do arati for Krishna. And say because of that, we go at a dangerously high speed in the car. We think, I am going for Krishna's service. That's good enough, but the material world acts according to certain principles. If somebody has severe diabetes, and they say that, somebody brings them a Tirupati Balaji Laddu. I say, this is prasad. How can I say no to prasad? And they take the laddu. Now what will happen is, they may get spiritually purified, but they will get materially devastated. Isn't it? So the power of Maya is also something to be seriously acknowledged. So for all of us, we may not underestimate, we may not neglect Krishna. See, for most of us, what happens is, yeah, Krishna is nice, but Maya is also not all that bad, So we do not devalue the power of Krishna, but we often devalue the power of Maya. And then what happens? We end up in self-created trouble. Self-created trouble. So, for all of us, it's important to acknowledge that both Maya is powerful and Krishna is powerful. And so, now I thought that we'll go toward the fourth quadrant. Let's look at the last paragraph. Who would like to read? The Mataji would like to read. Yes. The Lord is our protector. So it's like if we take a medical metaphor, if we consider a disease, if somebody has a disease, then first they need to take the disease seriously. Isn't it? And then after they take the disease, then they have to take the treatment seriously. So if somebody doesn't take the disease seriously, then suppose somebody has nowadays, suppose somebody gets some disease, like say somebody gets cancer. Now the word cancer is such that just hearing that word people get terrified. Now of course many forms of cancer are curable now. But normally if we hear the diagnosis cancer, we'll not take it lightly. We'll take it seriously. But somebody has just some swelling on the body, some little pain. So I say, okay, no big deal. I don't have to bother about it. So if they don't take a disease seriously, if the doctor says, you have to get this treated, there's no big deal. So if they don't take the disease seriously, things will become problematic. But if somebody takes a disease seriously, but they don't take the treatment seriously, then also it will be a problem. So for us, recognizing that Maya is powerful, it's like taking the disease seriously. So when we take the disease seriously, we recognize that there is a need to fight against this temptation. And then when we take Krishna seriously, there is hope that I can be cured. So I'll talk about this last part, that how to feel the need and how to feel the hope. So broadly speaking, it's not that all of us have the same anartha troubling us to the same degree. Each of us may have different anarthas. Some of us may have common anarthas, but the principle is there that Maya will attack all of us in some way or the other. So how do we feel the need? Broadly speaking, the need comes from two things. One is the positive that we are unable to do. If, say, I want to read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam regularly, and I spend a lot of time on phone, reading this, watching this, looking at that, responding to that, reacting to this. Now, unless we have some positive that we want to do, we may not even realize how much time we are spending. Like a student may waste a lot of time on social media, but if the exam is 6 months away, then it doesn't matter. But the exam is tomorrow, and I spend 6 hours on social media today. That would be devastating. So unless we have something positive that we want to do and we are unable to do, most of us say that, I don't have time. And it is true that nowadays people may be fairly wealthy, but there is one kind of poverty that everyone has. Sociologists call this time poverty. Time poverty is where we all have more things to do than what we have time to do it. But we will notice that while there are many things which we don't have time to do, but if we look at the time that we have, we often spend it on less than important things. So the way we realize the need to fight against temptation is by having something that we want to do, but we are unable to do. So when we start looking at that, I want to be kind and polite and helpful. But as soon as something goes wrong, I start becoming rude and harsh and just becoming mean. So then, this is not the kind of way I want to be. So that need can come from a positive side by recognizing that there are some values, some purposes, some things which I want to do, but I'm unable to do it. So we need to have some positive, that is our aspiration. So by looking at our aspirations, looking at the good things that we want to do and are unable to do, on one side we can feel the aspirations to do something. The other thing is the negative that we end up doing. So this is where we have our boundaries. Krishna talks about these two in 6.35 as abhyasena to kaunteya vairagyena cha gruyate. So abhyasa means repeated practice. Now why would we practice something repeatedly? Because we want to learn it, we want to do it. There are aspirations that we have. So what is it that I want to do that I am unable to do it? And boundaries means what? There are certain things which we do not want to do, but we end up doing it. So only if we don't have any boundaries at all, say if somebody has a lot of money and they keep buying lots of things, sometimes people have basements which are filled with things which they have barely opened once and kept over there. Now if somebody has a lots of money, they may spend a lot of money also, they may not even realize that I'm spending so much money. But if somebody keeps a boundary, every month I'm not going to shop beyond this amount. Or if some of circumstances come in their life where they don't have that much money, then they have to budget themselves more carefully. So if we have certain boundaries, we all may get angry, but generally we all keep our anger under limits. So normally when we get angry, we might just yell at someone, we might raise our voice. But most of us, if we are in a reasonably cultured society, we may not use swear words, we may not use obscenities. But if we regularly give in to anger, and one day, suddenly, we find that we have spoken some obscenities, how could I speak something like that? And if we just speak it among some people they're taken aback, but maybe it's just family, relatives. Tomorrow we speak it against somebody who is much more cultured and important for us. And then, hey, this is the boundary that I have crossed. So for each one of us, it's like, how do I know that I have a disease? Say if somebody is doing some regular workout, they're having muscular atrophy. How do they know it? That, okay, I try to lift a weight and I'm not able to lift the weight. Something is wrong over here. So only when we have some aspirations and that we are not able to do, we start recognizing maybe this problem, this is there. And say, we're just walking along and we slip and fall. What happened? How did I slip and fall? It just happened. I didn't see, but it was slippery ground. But maybe it is not slippery ground. Normally we don't slip and fall. So unless we have certain aspirations and certain boundaries, we won't recognize that there is a need for me to fight against temptation. Now, many ways, the aspirations, they come by satsang. They come by good association. For us, it might be routine to get angry and yell at someone when they do something wrong. But if we meet with people who are saintly minded, those who are devotees, and we see how calm and cool they are even in difficult situations, we start thinking, maybe I should also be like this. I get angry over such small things, I should not get angry. So it's satsang, that it's good association that often gives us aspirations. I want to become like this. Now boundaries, how do the boundaries come? The boundaries come by two things. One is intelligence and the other is experience. That we hear scriptures and we understand how the power of Maya can be so great. See, here I'll talk about the point of Ajamil. See, when Ajamil, he saw that particular sight. He said that he saw a man and a woman publicly engaging in sensuality. He saw that and that captivated him. And he felt a strong desire to be with that woman. Now, he could have fought that desire, he didn't fight, that desire captivated him. Now, sometimes conditionings are very powerful and you may captivate. He thought, okay, this is unbearable, I just have to go. Sometimes I have to go and be with her. Okay, now, when he did that, okay, he thought that this is just one time this desire has come, I'll go and gratify it and that's all. It'll be over. But he would probably never have thought where it would lead him. After that, what happened? He said, okay, I just don't want to be one time with her. I want to be regularly with her. I want to be regularly with her. What happens? I'll reject my wife. And then his parents were there. His parents opposed him. He said, I'll reject my parents also. Now he was a Brahmana. Now, if a Brahmana is supposed to do priestly activities, come and perform yajnas in somebody's houses. If that person has rejected their wife, rejected their parents, that person is living so immorally, nobody will ask that person to come and do priestly activity in their home. So then he lost his profession. And what is he going to do now? Then he started robbing, he started stealing, he started threatening people, he started attacking and injuring people to rob them. So that one indulgence, he would not have thought that it would lead him all this way down. But what happens is, Maya just keeps creeping in. So when we have boundaries, no, I cannot do this. I'm never going to do this. So when we have boundaries, that which we are not meant to cross. So what happens is we cross one boundary, no big deal. We cross another boundary, and it just goes further and further and further. There are devotees who are trying to do outreach in many different ways. We have created a program. Some devotees have created a program called a Bhakti Recovery Group. Like somebody is addicted to something, somebody is addicted to alcohol, somebody is addicted to drugs. And how can Bhakti help them to recover it? Now, for most people, if they've not been addicted, Bhakti just gives a higher taste and they don't look in that direction. But if somebody has been addicted, they just get caught in things. So I was talking with I was giving a talk to this group, and I'm talking with after them. Many of them are non-Indians. So this was in UK. So I was talking with one person, and I asked him what inspired you. See, for somebody who's an alcoholic, one of the things is that they often deny that they're alcoholics. No, it's not a big deal at all. I can give up whenever I want. And what happens is I can give up the desire to give up whenever I want also. So it's a denial. So then how do they come out of the denial? When do they feel the need? So he said that once he had drunk alcohol and he used to regularly drink and just lie down at home and then his son came and asked him something. His son, small 4 or 5 year old boy, and he was drinking and he just banged his fist against the table on which he was sitting and drinking. His son got completely scared. And he said, when I saw my son so scared of me, that was what shook me. He says, what kind of person have I become? As a father, I should be protecting my children. Here my son is shrinking in fear of me. And not because he has done something wrong, because I have done something wrong. He's afraid what more I may do. That's when he felt, I need help. I have to change myself. So this moment of awakening, it can come when we meet somebody good and we say, oh, I want to become like that good. Or that moment of awakening can come when we see, okay, how bad have I become? How could I become like this? What have I done? These are times when the power of Maya, we realize that. So this is, for all our conditionings, we may say, oh, I'm not able to give up this conditioning. But do we really have that desire to give it up? See, there's a difference. Sometimes we say there's a desire and there's a need. And for us, we may have many desires to improve. But like desires, we sometimes fulfill them, sometimes we don't fulfill them. But do we feel a need to improve? That's when, if something is a need, then we will do it. Mm-hmm. So by these two contemplations, the need can come up. And the last part is the hope. So how do we develop the hope? Sometimes we may realize that okay, yeah, this is a bad thing, but I've tried so many times, I never succeeded. That hope comes by understanding that the power of, while Maya is powerful, Krishna is more powerful. That Krishna's power is greater than Maya's power. So I'll conclude with one image. Say if we consider this is the earth and we are on the earth. Now around the earth there is the earth's gravity pull. There's the gravity zone of the earth in which there is the gravity pull. So if we try to go up, or if we are the rocket is being projected upwards, then what happens is that it goes up but the gravity pulls it down. So for all of us, the things that we are attached to, they have a pull. And when we try to go out of that, we just pull down. And this gravity pull may be different for different people based on how much they have indulged in that particular activity, how much they have been attached to it. But the gravity pull is there and it pulls us down. So for sometimes we think that say Krishna is somewhere over here. And Krishna is far away, and we think that I have to go all the way up to Krishna. So one of the key things that the Gita teaches is Krishna is far above. Krishna is far above Maya. Krishna is far above the conditions of this world. That is, if we consider the sun or the moon, they are so up, they cannot be pulled by the gravity pull of the earth. So Krishna is far above. However, Krishna is far above means he's above the gravity pull of the objects. However, Krishna is not far away. Krishna is far above but not far away. What this means is that there are certain places in our life, say if this is a sense object and this is the gravity pull of the sense objects. Now there are certain areas in our life where Krishna is so close that Krishna's gravity pull comes where we are. That means, say, consider if somebody is an alcoholic. They're completely caught in the gravity pull of alcohol. But while they're drinking, if they see devotees doing Sankirtan, and these devotees, let me also dance. Then when they dance, they experience some joy over there. So even when they are in the tamasic state of intoxication, they can still experience the joy of Krishna. So like that, wherever we are, there Krishna's gravity pull can reach us. Now, that does not mean that it will be equally the same all the time. That's why, although Krishna is in our hearts, we do not perceive his presence all the time. When we come in satsang, when we do some puja, when we go on some yatra, when we do some serious seva, at that time, what are we doing by these activities? We are placing ourselves in the gravity pull of Krishna. And we put ourselves in the gravity pull of Krishna, then we start experiencing that. Hey, this is so amazing. I didn't feel any agitation, I didn't feel any temptation, I didn't feel any distraction. All that just went away. So, no, today is Ekadashi. So some of us may be fasting on Ekadashi. Now what happens is some people, when they fast, they decide to fast, and then they give up the determination to fast. Others may hold fast to the determination to fast. Now maybe on Janmashtami we fast till midnight. Say, I cannot fast till midnight. But we come in the association, maybe we are doing seva, there is katha going on, there is kirtan going on. And just 1 hour, 2nd hour, 3rd hour, it just passes and till midnight we are fasted. And it's amazing. I didn't know I had this capacity to fast like this. So have any of you experienced this, that when you are in Krishna consciousness, temptation just doesn't seem to trouble us? Any of you experienced this? Yes, so we all have that experience. There are times when the gravity pull of Krishna comes in where we are, and then we don't feel the gravity pull of Maya, of the sense objects. So for all of us, it is these experiences that can give us the hope. And yeah, maybe temptations do come back and they trouble me. But there are times when I do not feel tempted. There are times when I remain free from temptation. And if we can bring ourselves in the presence of Krishna more and more, then we'll find that the gravity pull of Krishna will pull us upwards. And what will happen eventually? That by the power of Krishna, the sense objects will be there, the gravity pull will be there, but Krishna's gravity pull will pull us upwards. And we will go outside the gravity pull of the sense objects. So for some of us, we might have been eating, say, maybe some of us might have been eating meat before we came to bhakti. And then after we start practicing bhakti, many of us, we just give it up easy. Now if we go in a plane or a train and the person sitting next to us is eating meat. If the person sitting is maybe watching some movie and we may feel tempted to watch the movie, but if they're eating meat, most devotees will not feel attracted to the meat at all. See, we do not know whether Krishna is all attractive, but Krishna Prasad is all attractive. So, in that we have experienced some higher taste. So that's why it is like when we are daily dealing with distractions, daily dealing with temptations, we feel, is this bhakti really working? Is the power of Krishna really there? I'm getting the same anger I feel, the same irritation I feel, the same temptation I feel, same urges I have to fight against every day. We may feel that where is the power of Krishna? But this power of Krishna, it requires, we need to remember. Remembrance of two things. One is that there are temptation-free moments that we experience. They may not be permanent, but we have experienced those temptation-free times. It may be for a few minutes, it may be for a few hours, few days. We have experienced it. And there are also areas in our life, areas means we can say habits, where we have become free. It might be a minor thing, but we have become free of it. So if we remember these two things, then we will have hope. Okay, that particular conditioning, that particular unhealthy habit, I was able to give up. This might be more difficult to give up because maybe this conditioning is more deep-rooted. Maybe this will take more time, but I will be able to give it up. So in this way, when we take the power of Maya seriously and the power of Krishna seriously, then we will experience sooner or later a magical transformation in our life. In the journey of bhakti, quite often what happens is the spiritual change that happens, the spiritual growth that happens. It happens in three phases. First, it is revolutionary. Revolutionary means what? It's a rapid change. Initially when we come to bhakti, hey, this thing change, this thing change, our lifestyle changes, our habits change. There is a revolutionary change that happens. But that revolutionary change, it stays for some time. After that, it is a grind. We feel as if there's no dramatic change happening. But that change is happening. That change is evolutionary. It's like if you have a newborn baby, it's like every week the baby is growing. And you can actually measure and see every week the baby is growing. But once the child becomes 3 or 4 or 5 years old, like if every week you measure the height is not going to increase. See? But every day the child is being fed well, the child is growing. So, for most of our spiritual journey, our growth is evolutionary. But then at the end, again it becomes a revolutionary. Toward the end of our life, what happens is that the example is given, say, if we are going out for a morning walk and it's still twilight. The sun has not yet risen. So we are chanting maybe and we are thinking about Krishna. And suddenly we realize, hey, the sun has risen. So now the sun didn't rise at one moment. The sun was rising continuously, but at one particular time we realized the sun has risen. So that is how purification happens. So every day that we practice bhakti, we do some puja, we do some japa, we do some swadhyay, we do some seva. Every single day we are getting purified. Although it may appear, oh, this desire is coming, this temptation is coming, I'm fighting against it, it's coming. But every day that we are practicing bhakti, the sun of Krishna Prem is rising in our heart. And Srila Prabhupada writes that one day we'll realize, oh, I have become a pure devotee. What does pure devotee mean? That the same temptation that were troubling me earlier, I just don't feel those temptations. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam. Like the river comes into the ocean, but the ocean is not disturbed. You'll find that the things that would disturb me earlier, they no longer disturb me. And that is the stage when our heart becomes fully situated in Krishna. And Krishna says that is the stage of, we are already with him. That is the stage of mukti, jivan mukti. Even if we are not yet liberated, we are essentially liberated. It's only a matter of time when there will be videha mukti and we will be back with him, back with Krishna for a life of eternal love and eternal joy. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. I talked about the broad topic of fighting temptations, or fighting the power of Maya. Now, I talked about 3 main points in the session. That first point was that how, when we all face problems in life, there are external problems, but much more than these are there are self-created problems. And I talked about how I had a good vocabulary and a bad temper, and it made things worse. So the problems in our life, often the bigger problems are not the external, but the internal. They can be two separate, but the internal often make the external worse. So sooner or later, we recognize that there are these inner demons which need to be dealt with. And to deal with these demons, the major talk I discussed was about how these 4 quadrants, we take Maya seriously. Or we don't take Maya seriously. And we take Krishna seriously. So, we take Krishna seriously or we don't take Krishna seriously. So now, if these 4 quadrants are there, if we take Maya, if we don't take any of these seriously, then we are like in the position of Ravan, where we are basically getting degraded and we are getting proudly degraded. Happily, proudly, blissfully degraded, ignorantly degraded. If we take Maya seriously but we don't take Krishna seriously, then what happens? We become hopeless. So, hopeless is, the example here was of Ajamil. He tried to fight, but he felt I could not fight and he just gave up over there. Now, if we take Krishna seriously but we don't take Maya seriously, then we become careless. What was the example of this? Yudhishthir Maharaj. He had good intentions when he started, I wanted to obey my elders. But if the elders are asking us to do something dangerous like gambling, should we do it? And if we do it also, how far? Can we say that because I am doing it for Krishna, so I won't get into trouble? No. Good intelligence is necessary even when we have good intentions. Now, if we have both, then we become empowered. We become empowered, we take Krishna seriously, we take Maya seriously. Now, there are many examples of this, of saints of people who get transformed. So we have Valyaguri, he took the holy name seriously. We have Mrigari, who got the vision of how killing was going to lead to hellish suffering for him in future. So he took the wrong action seriously. So we have Jagai Madai. We can take the example of Mrigari over here. So then our talk was that first, the need. Need means that we take Maya seriously. We feel the need to fight. So how do we feel the need to fight? By 2 things. One is the aspirations. Think of things that we want to do in our life. We would love to do it, but we are not able to do it. That will make us realize that there's something that I'm being pulled away with, something inside me that is pulling me away from this. So our aspirations that we are not able to do. We are unable to do. And then the other is our boundaries. That there are things things which we, again, boundary that we do not want to cross, but we keep crossing. We are unable to stay within. So then we can realize that sometimes by good association we may realize that, oh, this is the kind of person I want to become. And then that can inspire us. And by self-observation, what kind of person am I becoming? So by our intelligence, by our experience, we start recognizing. So by our satsanga, we can develop good aspirations. By our self-observation, by our experience, by anubhav, by observing ourselves, we understand that this boundaries are very good. That can make us feel the need for change. And the last need to fight. The last is the hope to fight. Need to fight means we understand the power of Maya. And we take that power of Maya seriously. The hope to fight that comes by understanding that there is a gravity pull of Maya which is keeping us caught, but there is Krishna. And Krishna also has his gravity pull. And Krishna's gravity pull can come where we are. And it can lift us up from where we are also. So here we need to remember two things. Remember, one is that how the temptation-free times that we may have. There are times like we may fast on Ekadashi, fast on Janmashtami, and just don't feel any temptation at all. Normally what we thought impossible, we experience those temptation-free times. We may go for yatra, just forget everything of this world. Oh, this TV program, this movie, this politics, everything is forgotten. And then there are also habits that we have become free from, anarthas that we have. We are free from. If we remember these two things, then we will have the hope that Krishna will help us change. Krishna is there for us. And we discuss how spiritual change that happens. Initially it is revolutionary, then it becomes evolutionary, and then finally it will again become revolutionary. So initially it's rapid and dramatic in the initial stage, and then finally also it will again be revolutionary. But in between it is evolutionary. So when we are in this phase of evolutionary change, that is where we need our buddhi to understand the power of Maya, understand the power of Krishna, and keep pushing ourselves, by which we will keep growing towards Krishna. Let's conclude by offering this prayer once again. You can repeat after me. My dear Lord, let awareness of inner danger drive me toward your shelter. Shri Krishna Bhagwan ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
So many things that we talked about was wonderful, fascinating. Relish, Prabhupada will come right now. Prabhupada really
Can I have the water?
staying high forever.
Yeah.
Right? So this is kind of resonated with that. And these things that you talk about for the gravity pull also reminds us that's the escape velocity basically, the escape out of this material universe, we need the escape velocity. My question is, and you kind of summarize that at the end also about the revolutionary, we have revolutionary growth, then we have revolutionary growth, and then revolutionary. So tying to that thought of how do we keep on increasing, like we know we have to get to that escape velocity to actually get out of this world, right? Krishna's velocity is there, that's the gravity that you're talking about, that's the escape velocity, but how do we get to that state? Because there are so many hindrances that we will get on this path. How do we not succumb to those hindrances? How do we know theoretically that yes, that is the goal, and it is possible to reach that in this life. Prabhupada has also mentioned that. But many times we lose that hope, or that I don't think it's possible in this life. Maybe how much more I struggle? What I need to struggle. So how do we get that from conviction
is, it is quite easy to get discouraged, and also it is possible that we may end up discouraging ourselves by having unrealistic expectations from ourselves. What that means is that while Krishna consciousness can work in wonderful ways, but we can't expect magic all the time. Magic does come, but it may not come all the time. So what this means is that we all need to choose our battles. Say, if you consider now, India has had wars with two of its enemies, two of its neighbors, Pakistan and China. Now, to some extent in the last 10, 12 years, India has taken some strong action against Pakistan. But we have not really done something similar with China till now. We are not that strong. That doesn't mean we are letting China walk all over us. But it is not that we have taken the battle to China till now. So we are choosing our battles. Maybe in future we'll become stronger. So we have many anarthas in us. We have many things which we can want to improve. But if we try to fight too many battles, or we try to fight battles that are too difficult right now, then we may become too discouraged and think that is not going to happen only. So when we are fighting a battle, we also need a sense of success, or at least a sense of progress. So therefore we need to start with realistic battles. Shanai, Shanai, Krishna says gradually, step by step. So now we may have many areas where we want to improve. Maybe have many kind of things which we want to stop doing. But start with something which is doable for us. And we decide, okay, for the next 1 month, next 3 months, I'm going to do this. And stick to that. So many times what happens is that I was in India, we have a Govardhan Eco Village where we have a lot of Western people who come, they're yoga teachers and they're also interested in spirituality. So I was talking with one Western, he said, I asked him, how long are you going to be here? He said, I have to go back by February. I said, okay, what do you do? He said, I'm a therapist. Okay. And he says, our business shoots up in February. I said, why is that? Is it like, there are some people who have seasonal depression, So is February a time people get depressed? He said, no, not like that. He said, in January people make resolutions. By February, most people have failed in their resolutions. And they end up getting depressed. So see, my understanding is that sometimes we have to take small wins. That means instead of thinking that I failed, I made a resolution and I failed, be happy that I stuck to the resolution for 1 month. Generally, there are some like when we take initiation vows, there are some vows we take, I'm not going to do this again in my lifetime. But there are many whose consequences might not be that serious. So what happens is that if you say, I will not do this for the rest of my life, it's like a goal with no victory only. We may stick to it for 1 year, 2 years, but at the end, when we relapse, oh, I failed. But instead of that, once we start with the mindset, I'll never do this for the rest of my life. The mind says, okay, you have the rest of your life to do this. He said, let's just indulge now, afterwards you can start the resolution. And he says, so maybe take small wins. Okay, I'll not do this for 1 month. Like we have the Kartik month, when we may take some resolutions. We have Chaturmas, when we take some resolutions. So we need to have a realistic understanding. Krishna can do magic, but the mood of a devotee is not that a devotee demands that Krishna do magic. And we also have to be recognizing that, okay, I have certain conditioning, they are not going to go away overnight. So if we choose our battles and we take small wins, then it will be relatively easier to sustain ourselves. And the third point I'll make is, these are both with respect to Maya, with respect to fighting Maya. But the other aspect is focusing on Krishna. So what happens is that in Krishna Bhakti also, there are a range of activities. And not all bhakti activities will be equally nourishing for us right now. So if we consider the activities of bhakti, there are some which give strength to us. Now when we do that, we just feel enlivened, we feel great spiritual joy, we feel the presence of Krishna. Maybe it could, for some people, it could be kirtan, for some people it could be puja, for some people it could be hearing some classes, for some people it could be cooking for Krishna, doing garlands for Krishna, whatever it is. And then even in bhakti, there are some things which require strength. Require strength means what? That we really have to push ourselves to do those activities. Maybe for most people, chanting will fall in that category. Doing japa. And for some people, they may have a taste for japa. That's wonderful if they have. But for most people, it requires strength. So we also need to look at the bhakti activities. What that means is, there are some activities where it's like, say, I am here, and in different bhakti activities, it's like if Krishna is here, the gravity pull of Krishna I have to reach to that gravity pull. In some other activities, so for example in japa, the gravity pull might be up there and we have to reach there. Till then we have to push ourselves. But maybe in kirtan, or maybe in katha, the gravity pull reaches where we are. So for us, which are the activities that give us strength? We need to note them and do them regularly. Keep them accessible to ourselves. So when we do that, then when moments of weakness, it's like when we are having moments of weakness and then we have to do the activity that requires strength, we will forget it. No, when we have moments of weakness, we need to do the activity that give us strength immediately. Now, all activities of bhakti will give us strength, no doubt. But some may not give the strength immediately. So looking at which manifestations of Krishna are we naturally attracted to. There are many beautiful deities of Krishna, but some deities, pictures, we may feel very attracted to. We keep them on our phone, keep them with us. Whenever we see them, a prayerful bhav comes within us, and then have that. That way, if we do this, then it will become, the battle will still be tough, but it will become less difficult for us. So we make a list of these activities, and then we keep those activities accessible. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Correct, good question. So when we say that Krishna will fix all things, yes, Krishna will fix all things. But more often than not, Krishna will fix all things by fixing us so that we can fix all things. And it is not that Krishna will magically solve problems. We see there are in the Mahabharata many incidents where Krishna miraculously intervened. But if we see the majority of the Kurukshetra war, it was Arjuna using his archery, using his strength, he was fighting. Now, which were the moments that led to victory? Was it, say, the miraculous moment when, say, Krishna covered the sun and told, help Arjuna to kill Jayadratha? That is true. But Arjuna got to that point by fighting through the entire Kaurava army. So yes, God helps us, no doubt. But when, see, broadly, this is a big subject, but I'll try to shorten it. See, in our life, there are situations. Now, situations can be problematic. Now, situations lead to emotions. Something bad happens to us, we feel disheartened, we feel discouraged, we feel frustrated. And then emotions lead to decisions. So quite often, when we turn to Krishna, when we pray to Krishna, what we expect is that Krishna fix the situations. But what often Krishna does is that he fixes our emotions. And when he fixes our emotions, then that enables us to take better decisions. So now Krishna can fix the situations also, but that is not what he normally does. A devotee does not depend on Krishna intervening all the time. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is not, there is a difference between, say, to some extent, the mood of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. In the Ramayana, Lord Ram is the hero. Of course, he's not the only hero. Hanuman is also a hero. All of them are heroes, but Ram is the central hero. Now, and he's doing the most action. But in the Mahabharata, it is Krishna not doing the most action. It is the Pandavas, it's Arjuna doing the most action. So in many ways, the Mahabharata is more reflective of real life than the Ramayana. So the call of the Bhagavad Gita is not just that Krishna is the hero and turn to him and he will solve all your problems. So rather the mood of the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna is the hero and join him and he will make you a hero. So he will enable you to do heroic things. So yesterday I gave a class on the same topic in Columbus. I talked about how we may think of Krishna as a protector. And that is wonderful. Krishna as a protector means that Krishna is the hero who will protect me when I'm in trouble. And that is good to understand, but Krishna is not just a protector. Krishna is also our commander. That we are in an army and we are in Krishna's army. And this war that we are fighting, it is a tough war, but we have Krishna as our commander. And when Krishna is a commander, we fight in the war. And then here Krishna is the hero, but in Krishna's army, we also become the hero. So Krishna wants us to become heroic. Srila Prabhupada was, you can say, the unlikeliest of heroes. At the age of 69, 70, with nothing to show in his life, he went to America. And he came to America. He tried to serve Krishna. And in the last 10 years, 108 temples, 70 books, 14 world tours, thousands and thousands and thousands of people inspired to take a bhakti. So it is Prabhupada who also became a hero. So yes, so Krishna helps us. Bhagwan sab karenge, that's true. But Krishna will do many things through us. And that's why devotion is not passivity. Oh, Krishna will take care of everything. We can think of that when we are giving into too much anxiety. Okay, don't worry, Krishna will take care. But Krishna will take care of other things. Let me take care of the thing that I am doing right now. So in that sense, there is our part and Krishna's part. So it's like a human-divine partnership. Like the Krishna and Arjuna, they had a partnership like that, the divine-human partnership. So it is like the human take care of what I can. That I take care of what I can, and the divine Krishna will take care of what I can't. Thank you, good question. Yeah. Thank you. Any last question before we stop? Yes, please.
Maya is always there, trying to take us away from Krishna and keep our focus. So, my question is, what, I'm just coming up from my own life situation. If there is a situation where you have dependents, children, when you see that they are actually not remembering Krishna and they are completely oblivious of Maya, how do you help them? Praying to Krishna is what we always...
By children means you're talking about teenagers or... Okay.
So, we are surrounded by Maya. You were giving the social media example, and I was thinking you were talking to me personally. That is what challenge I face with my goddess Krishna, and they are, also not aware that Maya is attacking them. You want them to come to quadrant number 4. Vaguely. How do we help them?
Yeah. It is difficult. But I think what I found is broadly 3 steps. First is that how we see our children. It is like our children, especially in teenage, see, this particular time is that in human history, as far as recorded history, it is a time of unprecedented temptation. So it's a very difficult time in which to grow up. So instead of thinking that our children are being difficult, why don't they listen to me? Why don't they care for me? I want their good. So seeing them as they are being difficult, you should see that they are in difficulty. That they may not want our help, although they may not be ready to take our help, but it is that they are in difficulty. It's an overwhelming time to live in today's world. So we may say, what is the difficulty? I lived in poverty, I lived in far more difficulty than what you are living in. I have given you so many comforts in life now. But their difficulty quite often is much more psychological. Especially what happens when people come to teenage. If you consider childhood, teenage and adulthood. So, in childhood, a person's identity is more or less, I am the son or daughter of so-and-so. In adulthood, they develop their identity. I have this degree, I have this job, I have this family. We have developed the identity. But in teen, it is an identity crisis. They are too old to be satisfied simply with the identity that I am so-and-so's son or daughter. But they have not created their own identity. So therefore, here, there is a lot of peer pressure. Because, for whom do we want an identity? We want an identity so that we will be accepted and respected in our social circles. So then there are different kinds of peers, and some peers may say, okay, have you watched this movie? Have you tried out this drink? Have you tried out these drugs? Come on, have a life, enjoy. So you are just being a nerd. All these kind of small labels come up, but they jar them quite a bit. So the first thing is that it's not that we are against our children, or rather our children are against us. We don't think we are against our children, but they are in difficulty. So, especially when I give talks to completely new people, Western people, of my prayers I offer, it's there in this book also. So with that, we go to 3.26. Help me to learn how to help others to learn. So it is not that people are dumb and they don't want to learn. It is that I have to learn how to help others to learn. So that it's that they are in difficulty. Krishna says, don't disturb others' minds. Try to elevate them gradually. So the idea over here is that the first is that they are in difficulty. And once we understand that, then try to learn how to help them to learn. What does that mean? That often they want help. But what happens is, most often teenagers feel that you just don't understand me. You don't understand what situation I'm going through. So if at any time they start talking, okay, this happened in my school today, this happened in my college today, this happened. Our tendency is immediately to judge them. How could you have done like this? How could you let this? Why are you such a person like this? A person who does like this. But if they are expressing something, if we immediately rush to judgment, then they will close down completely. So he said, okay, try to understand what is going on in their life. We may say they are foolish and they are ignorant and we are experienced, but they don't feel it like that. Like one of the differences between, say, Indian culture or Eastern culture and Western culture is that Eastern culture, in the East, the culture is much more hierarchical. That there is authority and there is a subordinate. So for many of us, when we are growing up, if our parents told us, don't do this, we obey it. So in hierarchical cultures, authority is assumed. Respect is assumed. Because I'm in authority position, respect is assumed. Now it is not in the Western culture, authority is not there. But it is more that the culture is more horizontal. Like when a kid is called their parents sometimes by their names also. Like we call our bosses by our names. We feel it's weird, it's disrespectful. That's a different culture. So it's not that there is no respect, but respect has to be earned. Here it can be assumed respect. But here it has to be earned. The idea is that you have to show me that something which you are telling me has value for me, it works for me. So if we try to spend some time understanding them. Now in the childhood we have to set some boundaries, and that's important. But as they grow up, they will have to decide what boundaries they want to live under. So live within. And they may want to explore. And now we don't want them to explore into dangerous degrees. But the idea is respect has to be earned. And earning respect means what? That we try to understand their situation and give them guidance which makes sense to them. And they say, even if one small guidance that we give, it helps them, then they'll become more open to guidance. So try to understand what the kids are going through. And it is a very different and difficult world that they are in today. And the last part is that it's like we often want to discipline them. But instead of talking about discipline, we can talk about it as a self-negotiation. What do I mean by self-negotiation? That it's like there is the present me and there is the future me. So for example, say if we are trapped in a storm and we have say only 7 days food, then we may decide that if I just enjoy a big feast right now, then I may not have any food after 3 or 4 days. So the present me should not enjoy at the cost of the future me. So rather than telling the children, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, try to help them to see that wise discipline, you want to enjoy right now, but do you want to enjoy in a way that will harm the future you? That will ruin life for the future you. So it's not so much that I am telling you to do this, but rather there is a future you who has to live with the consequence of the present you. And so now present me is there. Now if we care only for the present me, we will get stagnated or degraded. But on the other hand, if we care only for the future me, this is good for you in the future, this is good for you in the future. But what about the present me? It's like we want to have food after 7 days. So, but what about me? Oh, don't eat anything because we need food in the future. We'll have food in the future, but we may not be there in the future, isn't it? So what happens if we care only for the present me, we can get degraded, we can get into bad habits. But if the future me, only we care for it, then we can get suffocated. That, you are telling so many things which are good for the future me, but you don't seem to care for the present me at all. You will have a career, you will have this, but there's no enjoyment for me right now in my life. So ideally speaking, there has to be both. So it is not that the future me has to be at the cost of the present me, or the future you has to be at the cost of the present you. But it is also that the present you should not be at the cost of future you. So if we get that sense of time and help them get the sense of time, it is not just I who am telling you to do this and you have to do this. It is you have a future to live in. As a famous American thinker, Mark Twain, he said that when I was 17, my father was a fool. Now I am 25 and I am amazed how much the old guy has learned in the last 8 years. Now, it is possible that the father has also learned some things, but it's quite likely that 17, the hormones are high. One thing I can conquer the whole world. But by 25, a person has become a little more responsible. And person starts recognizing that, my parents have lived responsibly. They have gone through life. They have something to teach me. So sometimes what happens, so I'm talking about this from the present me and the future me, for the child's perspective. But from our perspective also, sometimes we may want the child to do at present the right thing. And we force them so much. We can force to some extent. But if we force them too much, once they become young adults, they may just go completely off. So sometimes doing the right thing is important, or getting them to do the right thing is important, but sometimes maintaining the right relationship is also important. If we tell them that, what I am telling you is right, and if you don't listen to me, you will regret it in the future. And then you will come crawling back to me. Now, if we do that, even if they realize they were wrong, they will not come back. So, it's like a bird, like a mother bird. A baby, when the baby bird is small, the mother bird protects the baby in the nest. But the baby bird has to fly. And while flying, sometimes the baby bird may fall down. But then, that's how the baby bird learns to fly. So, from our side also, we want to care that they make the present choices properly. But if we force them to make certain choices right now, they may become resentful, and even when there are good choices to be made, they may not make good choices just because we told them to make those choices. So it's like a careful, from our side also we have to negotiate. I want to get my child to do the right thing, but I also want to have a good relationship with my child. So if the only word that the child hears from the parents, no, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you cannot do that, then eventually the child will grow up and will say no to the relationship with the parent itself. And that can be very painful. So all this is not easy, it is difficult, but gradually we can help them navigate that difficult phase of adulthood, of teenage to come to adulthood. Okay. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Chaitanya Charan Prabhu ki.
So I have written a couple of books. This first book I already showed you. Yeah. So it's prayers. So this is, I already have seen this book. There are 122 prayers, and there's a very accessible table of contents with prayers for various occasions. You can just read the affirmations and see whichever prayer you may like. There are prayers when we feel lost and directionless. There are prayers when we feel lonely and abandoned. There are prayers when we feel spiritually dry and disconnected from Krishna. There are prayers when the temptations are rising too much in our lives. So many devotees have told me that this has helped them in their daily chanting also. Just read one prayer, look at a picture of Krishna, and that calms and centers the mind. So this is prayers inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. This is based on the first 6 chapters. I hope to make 2 more books like this so that we'll have 366 based on all the 18 chapters. Now this is Gita for the CEO. Nowadays in the corporate world, there's a lot of interest in learning some life lessons and leadership principles from ancient texts. From Greek, Stoicism has become very popular. From Japan, Ikigai has become popular. So HarperCollins is one of the biggest publishers in the world. So they asked me to write something on the Bhagavad Gita. So I've taken 10 principles on the Bhagavad Gita, and there are many simple diagrams and illustrations like I was drawing here and explaining. So this book tells about one of the things about parenting, not exactly about parenting, but why don't people listen to us? How can we make our words more effective? That's the principle of words change worlds. Watch your words. That's the principle based on 17.15 in Bhagavad Gita. Like that, there's also what I talked today about not to lose heart when things become tough. Today I was talking about temptation, but in general about discouragements, how we can discover our own talents and our purpose and contribute. So 10 principles are explained. This is not only for CEOs, it's for anyone who wants to play any leadership role, formal or informal in their lives. And this is also a good book to give as an introduction to friends and colleagues who may not be able to connect with the Gita right now, but this book can help them come closer to Krishna, to Krishna's words in the Gita. So both these books are available. I'll be here for some time in case if you want the books to be signed or if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Cincinnati group. So whoever wants to buy the book, you can pay by them.
Thank you for reading this. I got this when it first came out, but I saved it. I know you were coming for you. I bought it full C, but with shipping and all that stuff, it was quite but I wanted it. There was no way I was missing it. But I figured I'd have you sign it.
Everyone gave ours away, so he's picking it up.
Yeah. So yeah, when it came out, and I'm taking the prayer one. Yes.
You can